We'll start with intros, I suppose, buy ourselves some times as folks continue to join. I'm not Snap Dev Operations. I mean, I am, but that's the name you see on Zoom. But my name is Garrett Kelly. I am a strategy and ops consultant and business partners with Ha Wen, and we started working with Snap Dev, now called Ember, when they did their first boot camp, not quite a year ago. And so we were the first participants in that. And then I started mentoring, and then I started facilitating those boot camps, and now I run operations through experience design and facilitation for all of the boot camps. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, totally. Hey, folks, glad to have you here. My name is Dan Sears. I'm up in the upper left, U.S., somewhere usually in Oregon or Washington, sometimes in California. I move a lot. Um, so basically, my involvement here is I taught at UW, University of Washington. I taught the AI for product management specialization. I've been in AI for 17 of my 32 years in the work world. The bulk of that was in product, 0 to 1. So going from nothing to building products. We are in a golden age right now, and it is we haven't even stepped onto the first inning of the plate yet. No matter what the hype you hear is, it is incredible where we are. And so I want to applaud you for coming because the skill set that you gain out of the boot camps that we've designed is a durable skill set that will differentiate you. So I'm co-teaching this with Garrett and the Ember team, but I'm also bringing 30 something years of experience into this, as well as some other stuff that if I described it to you right now, you wouldn't understand it, but it is core to the boot camp, to our experience, and it's completely unique. You will not find in any other boot camp anywhere else in the globe. So strap in and we'll tell you a little bit about it.
All right, thanks, Dan. I'm going to share my screen and get started. All right, can everyone see the SnapCamp slide? Great,
Yes.
great. So they're not joining today, but SnapCamp was just a quick intro on the founders is Qasim. And so one of the things that makes this camp unique beyond what Dan was teasing is that we have engineers on demand, both in structured one-on-one sessions for specifically more complicated pieces of the builder journey, as well as on demand at the click of a button to schedule time with and to troubleshoot and brainstorm what you might be going through and to help get you unstuck very quickly. So Qasim was able to use this and connect this to these bootcamp offerings and this business because he started Remote Base, which is a platform that vetted probably at this point over 500,000 engineers over the past 10 years and has connected that business to SnapDev Ember AI in order to help people going through this learner's journey get unstuck very quickly. And so one of the challenges we have is, I say we, but I have as a non-technical, non-engineer background, is I could be building and vibe coding, but not know what the code really is behind the surface. And so having the ability between the operating system we're going to show you and the engineers on hand to help support making sure that we're building the right code, it's been a big differentiator and something incredibly valuable. So Kasim is the brains behind all of this. And then Deb Liu, former CEO of Ancestry on the board of Intuit. She built the Facebook Marketplace and was the lead product for that. And so she's a powerhouse that has a lot of relationships, knows a lot of people, and is incredibly brilliant. And so between the two of them, we have an excellent team helping to guide us. So as Dan said, we're on inning one, and there's sort of this phrase you've probably all heard, crawl, walk, run. A lot of people are crawling to figure out how to use AI, but you'll see everyone's an expert on LinkedIn, and every bootcamp promises to teach you everything you need to know in order to be walk into maybe stage nine when we're all still crawling, including themselves. So a lot of these boot camps and a lot of these tools result in the same thing, and we've seen this. We here at Ember have seen this over and over and experienced it ourselves as well when we first started. The problem is that you get stuck, like when you vibe code, you're communicating, and the AI you're communicating with has its own limitations based on its training, where it's trying to sprint to the quickest outcome and make you happy at the same time and give you what you want. But anytime you're communicating, there's a translation layer. So context and clarity are incredibly important, but it sprints to the first thing, but it loses context over multiple prompts. And so people could build something and think it looks great and it works, but over time it starts to break down and it doesn't. And then I don't know if everyone's heard of the term drift, but as you communicate with an LLM and work with it to continue to build, you are in your head maintaining this sense of vision and memory that's end to end across what you're trying to build to an extent, and how well your memory works and how well you stay organized on your own. But the LLM sort of restarts from scratch each time. And so you have to constantly communicate with that level of context and vision in a way that it builds the correct thing over time and doesn't reinvent the wheel or make different decisions. And it's almost impossible to do that without a really good system to help it navigate it, remember, adhere to the decisions already made, and build with fidelity in a cost-efficient way. And so a lot of the boot camps or the tools out there don't really teach you how to do that. It's up to you to try to figure it out and stumble your way through it. But we have an operating system we've been developing over the last few months that controls for all of this. So a lot of these boot camps will teach you the tools, and we do that, of course, but it's not enough. That's table stakes. Everyone's using Claude Code now. That's what they want to work with. Maybe they have, Lovable or V0 that they're used to. And learning the tools is important, but we want to teach everyone how to build with these tools. So what's a good build workflow and how do you go end to end to build something usable? So we help you start with idea clarity. So some of you might already know what you want to build. Some you have an idea, but it's not incredibly fleshed out. We help everyone think through to build a robust PRD and technical requirements document that's based in research, um, identifying your core customer, the persona, what pain are they experiencing? What's their current workarounds that they're using to alleviate that pain? What is the core value proposition that your idea would deliver for that pain? How is it different than from what already exists in the market? What are your core couple features that would create that aha moment that makes that person and persona really want to use your product and not be able to live without it once they've used it? And then how do we translate that into a best-in-class operating system so that when you get into these tools and start building, it's going to build with fidelity through what your PRD has communicated to it. We start with a front-end prototype, and then we integrate it back into it, and then we teach you the tips and tricks and best-in-class skill set to execute that workflow and build rituals to vibe code and bring your idea to life as efficiently as possible.
Garrett, I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
I think I heard that there's some elements of, well, I guess it's the Ember's operating system. Does that mean anything that we build is going to be hosted and run on an Ember platform? And are they, for whatever reason, I'm planning on doing something personal, but let's say it, like Dan, like building a big business, like are you then married to that operating system?
No, the operating system is like a structured way for you to build that's yours. So we
Okay.
teach it, but it's yours. And so
Okay.
we help you deploy, and we have domain services to support that. But if you want to buy your own domain and host it yourself and launch your own business, you're not tied to Ember in any way.
Okay.
That's completely yours. And like we mentioned before, this hopefully I made it seem straightforward and simple, but inevitably when you're building something that involves code and multiple different features, it's not. But the beauty is at any point you have questions and need support, Dan and I are there to help you. We have mentors like Danny who are there to help and support along the way in certain moments in time. And then you can just click a button and get on a call with an engineer right away to have them look at your code, talk through your project, and guide you and get you unstuck very quickly.
And
So
I would love to say one thing here.
please, please.
The Michelle, you're talking about, let's say, building something just for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things we've seen in these boot camps, a lot of folks come in with an idea that is originating from their own need, right? Something that is of interest to them. And that's awesome because it's a great place to start because you have passion for it. It's something that you're interested in that could really help you personally. What we do with folks is we try and have you think through that through the lens of what if there was a whole bunch more people like you who could benefit from this. So if you decide as you're going through this, like, hey, this cool idea that I created for myself, man, there's a lot of other people that could benefit from this.
Yeah, yeah,
You'll be,
totally, Dan. And I mean, what I'm building is still has business value. I've been doing business development for a long time, so I wanted to build something for myself.
perfect.
That would probably capture 3 decades of business development, but I didn't want to overwhelm myself with all the else what other people might want, and I just wanted, so I'm starting with just what I would want, and
Yeah,
then over time my other versions of this will potentially expand out to other people in other use cases.
I love it. That's exactly in the last boot camp. We had 4 or 5 people with that. We're in that same headspace.
Yeah.
So perfect. We can accommodate that quite easily. And
I know, and I know Haas started out with some LinkedIn like
mhm.
tool, and then all
Mhm.
of a sudden that became a bigger thing. Like so I'm trying to follow her method.
Excellent. Okay, that's perfect. I just want to make one more point on Garrett's slide there. I can't reiterate this enough. The one-on-one engineering support that you get with our boot camp is completely unique. And the beauty, the importance of this is best experienced when all of it when you're non-technical and you get in the middle of trying to figure out some technical issue. Um, and you go, oh my gosh, I'm like reading Latin. I can't figure any of this out. And Google doesn't help you. And Claude doesn't help you because you don't know. It's just such a powerful component, and it's often missed until boot camp participants are in the middle of it and go, "Holy moly! Thank you, Mr. Engineer or Mrs. Engineer, for helping unblock me." Because that's our goal here is to keep your momentum high and keep you moving forward.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we've been doing this. I think the first one we had was June of last year. Since then, we've had 12 cohorts, I believe. We've had 6 of these 1 month formatted boot camps. We have this different model we've designed since where it's a 2 day and we keep evolving it. It's now 2 half Fridays with a week build in between. And then we partnered with Maven and Marilee, who's on Maven, to facilitate the build portion, capstone portion of her boot camp, which brings in like 250 people every 6 weeks. So we've been running these boot camps quite a bit, evolving it and getting better every time. And with the operating system that Dan and I have talked about, this will be the first one we've implemented that fully end to end. And we're incredibly excited about it. We really do think this is the best possible learning experience that is out there, which is what we're striving for. Our average NPS is above 85. 90% of people deploy and ship their products by the end, and not a single person who's been through our boot camp has engineering experience. So this is built for the non-technical person who wants to learn these tools and build. We get a lot of the same question from folks coming in. It's, do I have to be technical? I've never used these things before. Is this really for me? Because all of this feels like it's over my head or something I'm not capable of doing. And I just want to make sure if I'm going to sign up, go through it, that I'm going to be able to do it. And so based on the NPS and the average ship rate, I can confidently say you don't have to be technical at all. I wasn't. I've been in tech. I was at Airbnb 7 years, been in tech companies before that and after that. I've worked with engineering teams, I've worked with product management teams, but I was never a product manager or an engineer. And I got through the first one, and now I'm helping to teach and facilitate for folks, and I see it the same every time. People come in a little reticent, and then they leave with this sense of empowerment. Transformation is a word we use a lot because now they realize they can do this. It wasn't as hard as they thought it would be. And now they have all these ideas and all this excitement and motivation behind them because now they can build things that have been stuck in their head for so long that they told themselves they couldn't do anything with because it would cost too much. There's too many barriers to entry. It was too complicated. But this boot camp really does illuminate what's possible and gives people the confidence to just start building and try to make those things real. So This is the schedule that we've built for the next one. We find Monday, Wednesday, Friday having regular check-ins with a little bit of gap in between to build is has been a great um, medium to both educate, get your hands on it, check back in, get your hands back on it, check back in. And then within this, we have a couple accountability milestones around the front end demo, PRD completion, um, integrating the operating system into the tech stack, your front end demo, and then back end, your final demo and graduation. And we follow this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for 4 straight weeks. We also have a Slack community, so you'll be in a Slack channel with everyone else and communicating and chatting. We've had members who just meet on their own if they're building something similar, who will build on the same Zoom call just at the same time, but doing their own thing so they can chat while they do it and work through things together. We do really try to foster community and collaboration, and the engineers are all in the Slack channel too. So if you're just working one evening and you're just like, I just want to chat with somebody real quick about something, you can just jump in Slack and an engineer will be there to just very quickly say, hey, what's up? What can I do to help? Um, and then for those that stick with us after the boot camp, we have different subscription options, from just a basic starter package for you to just build on your own with different packages that give you credits and engineering hours to continue supporting your build. There's a founding members community that persists beyond the boot camp that you could be a part of. We have, I think, over 250 people in it right now. Um, and it fluctuates a bit, but we do weekly calls or bi-weekly calls, bring in guest speakers. And we're going to be integrating some additional content to help keep everyone up to speed with all of the evolution and moving parts because it is changing and evolving so fast. What Danny and I experienced in the first boot camp or two is very different than what exists out there today. And so we're trying to find ways to build community, not just in the boot camp, but for anyone who's a part of the Ember ecosystem and help everyone stay up to speed with the times and the technology that continually is evolving. We've talked about, Zach, please. I'll just leave this slide up. We've just talked about a lot of these things already, and it's somewhat iterative, but it is what makes us different. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, I had a quick question. Um, I'm a junior in college. I just got like a summer internship as a AI labs intern at a company called Clasp, in the Boston area. They're like a health tech, fintech company. And so part of my reason for joining this Zoom call is because I just really like messing around like with AI. I find it super fun. I do it sort of all the time. I messed around with like Claude code and done some stuff there. Um, but I was curious, like a lot of what my role is going to be for the summer is going to be doing like AI agentic stuff and finding ways to like not just make like the processes at the company like better and like faster, but also like almost, I guess, applying like first principles thinking and really thinking like what actually needs to happen. And instead of just like making the process faster, thinking different ways to approach the process and
Hmm.
like using agents in that sense. So how much of this boot camp can be dedicated to like really learning like the power of like what agents can do themselves? Because like I'm interested in learning like how to make a product. Like that sounds awesome. And I think that's a very valuable skill that I'd love to acquire, but also how much is going to be like agentic work?
Hmm.
It's a great question, and also good on you for diving into all this stuff as a junior in college. I'll let Dan take the second part of this. We try to design this boot camp. We don't do mobile apps because that's a very unique and different type of build and deployment scenario. So for the sake of the learning experience to help you learn the operating system, the rituals around vibe coding with low cost and fidelity to the idea you originally intended or trying to build through, agentic can be a part of that, and our engineers can support that. It just depends on what type of agentic integration you're trying to do. So, Dan, I'll let you take over from here, but I don't see any reason why an agentic, we'll say project instead of product for this, can't be done within the bootcamp confines.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, Zach, congratulations. That's cool. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, I think it's really awesome that you've been able to land in a cool place where at a time when so many folks are struggling just to get in, right? Just to make stuff happen. Um, so yeah, kudos to you for that. So Yeah, the way I would think about this is think of agents as little products, right? So the boot camp is structured in a way that we can absolutely help you think through an agentic scenario. Um, the principles, the patterns that you learn, the process that you learn here, the methodology, it applies whether you're building agent stack or you're building a product or you're building an AI capability, right? Which could be like a platform capability that could expand beyond just, it's enabling other things. So the the blueprint that you learn here is applicable across all of those surface areas. Um, I think where Garrett is getting is um, it's kind of interesting. Let me answer this in two ways for you, Zach. Actually, what you're learning here is what we call agentic engineering. It's beyond vibe coding. Vibe coding is just talking to the system and allowing the LLM and the harness around the LLM to interpret your English language and create something for you. That's vibe coding. What you're going to learn in this boot camp is way beyond that. And
Mm,
it's a difficult thing for us to describe to people who've never done it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
no, no, yeah, I totally get that.
yeah, everybody talks in the boot camp world. This is one of the challenges that Garrett and I are having right now. Is we're trying to figure out how do we market this thing because everybody talks about vibe coding, like come learn vibe coding, and it's all tool oriented. I've been doing this a long
Yeah,
time. Uh, Tools come and go. I have seen this over 30 years. Tools come and go, but durable, repeatable, sustainable process and methodology and having a mindset and a way of doing it,
yes,
that's that's the key. And that's what we're teaching here. The vehicle, the positioning vehicle is vibe coding, but actually what you're learning is agentic engineering, which is
yes,
beyond vibe coding. We don't use that phrase. I'm using it here with you folks. I don't want to scare you off with that phrase because people say, "Oh, agentic engineering." I'm not an engineer. Oh my God, I don't know what agents are, and it all of a sudden feels like Mount Everest. Don't worry,
yeah.
it's not. It's not Mount Everest. It's vibe coding version 3 would be the way to think about it. So uh, when you get in to the boot camp, you start to understand what we're talking about here, and it becomes really clear that, oh my God, I could build virtually anything. That's the way to think about it. So I hope that answered your question. Let me know if there's
No,
other
it
other
totally did.
questions.
I really just wanted to know if the skills that would be learned in this boot camp would be applicable to like heavily like agentic work and thinking about like agents themselves as more of projects in themselves.
Hmm.
That sort of gives me more clarity on it. And also for the record, I would not be a part of this Zoom call if it was just like if it was labeled as just a vibe coding boot camp because it's like I don't really you know what I mean? Like I know how to like type, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
I appreciate learning about the methodology, but I'll let you guys continue. Really cool.
Yeah. Let me add one more thing, Garrett. Garrett did make one point which we didn't dig into, and that is depending on the scope of the agent build you want to do, um, you may need some additional tool chain, some additional platform support, some additional tool chains that most people who come in here aren't thinking about. And we would want to sit down right at the beginning and kind
Yep.
of interrogate the idea you have and then scope out what that tool chain looks like so that we can work on getting that tool chain in place, right? Which um, we'd figure that out. But essentially, it would be a little bit of a different tool chain. You'd still use Claude Code, but we might end up using LangChain. I don't know. We might end up using N8N. I don't know. We'd have to scope out the idea, but it's totally feasible.
Yeah, okay, cool. I have like a second part question. This is just like a very brief one, like a yes or no. Like I don't have an idea at all as to really what I want to do. And I think a part of
Mhm.
the learning process is learning like what's capable for someone who's really just starting out with this sort of like with these agentic capabilities. So um how could I like hop on a call with, like an engineer and just like what would be a great first like thing to build and get some experience and then move on to something else? Like how does that work?
I
Yeah.
I would say think about it. We give some pre-work templates to help people think about an idea and draft it out, but I'm
Cool.
actually going to demo in a second. Literally, what's something I did an hour ago to get set for the demo where I was like, I want to do something different. that relates to an experience that I have that I would want to build. And so I'm going to show you how I went through that thought process and how I initially set up the front end prototype.
Amazing. Sounds great. Sounds awesome, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. One final point. Everybody here gets a one-on-one with me right at the beginning, and we spend time in kind of basically discussing and scoping out your idea to get it t-shirt sized right for the class. So that's another element there. Cool.
Cool.
All right. So we wanted to bring in Danny, Danny, were you in the first boot camp or the second?
I was in the second one.
Okay. So Danny was in our second boot camp, probably last August or something like that. But
Yep.
he's been a key member of the community. He helps mentor a lot of the boot camps, and just overall great guy. So I wanted to bring him in and let him kind of tell you about his experience going through the boot camp and what he's still doing with the community and what he's still building.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, quick background on me. I spent the last, I don't know, 15, 17 years as a product leader. Before that, worked in investment banking and doing corporate strategy. So I have no engineering background. And I was in the second boot camp. It was much less polished than than the boot camps are now. I so I went into the boot camp. I kind of had a general idea. I built it, but then, like many things, I was exploring a bunch of other ideas and ended up landing on one that I wanted to create a business around. So the company that I run is called Tel Pastel. The sort of the thing that we are chasing after is in a world where like AI is more and more and more and more prevalent. We are working to actually use AI to help drive human connection. And the way that we do that is we enable people to capture memories, they capture personal stories, and they can turn them into custom interactive books, shows, and games for kids. So Garrett's showing his screen. I'll share my screen here, and I'll actually walk you through a quick demo. And again, I had no engineering experience. Everything that I have done has been, leveraging, like I was a product manager in some fairly technically advanced companies. Like I worked in fintech. I was the VP of product at an autonomous vehicle company, but I was not an engineer. And so everything that I have done since then has been using the skills that I learned during that early SnapCamp and the continued support of the team to build this product. So we'll run through a quick example. Right now, we're getting ready to do a bunch of stuff around Mother's Day. So I actually have something on Mother's Day up on my screen. I will after this, I'll just paste in the URL in case any of you want to click around and explore. But this is all real. So we're gonna create a sample book for Mother's Day. I'm just gonna put in my own information. You now have my personal email address. Congratulations. I'm gonna get started. And we are going to create a book. This dynamic retro gloss one is kind of a fun style. And I'm going to do this for the best mom in the world. I'm going to pretend like what we're targeting right now is for dads and their kids to make this for the mom, right? So I'm going to pretend that I'm one of my kids. So I'm just going to say, how would I describe my mom? I'm going to say that she is kind and selfless and always tired. Okay, what's one of your favorite things to do? Let's see, my son or Oliver loves baking brownies. So let's say bake brownies and something about her that makes her laugh. When I am sad, she walks into a wall to hurt herself and make me feel better. Okay. So what's happening in the background is Tel Pastel is effectively it is an orchestrator and a harness for a bunch of different AI technologies. And in the background along the way, we are constantly doing parsing and processing of everything that we're getting from the user in order to create an output. So now this book is about mom. Let's actually do this about my wife. We'll see how this thing comes out. She's 5'1". I'm going to upload a photo of her. Let's see, one of these has her in it. There's her. All right, so I'm going to crop it so that it's just her. There we go. Now, let's say this is from Oliver, my 9-year-old. He's about 4 feet tall. And there he is. So, by the way, like I'm doing this demo and we're flying through it, but I do want you to recognize like this was all built by me and a bunch of different AI tools, right? So this is, I never would have imagined I could have done something like this. I'm going to kick this off. It's going to take about 3 minutes. I never could have imagined I would have been able to do something like this in August. In fact, in July, I was sort of at the point where I was really frustrated because I had had a bunch of startup ideas and I couldn't find any engineers that were interested in working on them with me. And I felt in order to convince one of them, I had to show some progress, right? Show some customer demand, show some progress with something. I wanted to be able to build an MVP just to be able to find someone to do more with me. And once I started getting into this, I realized I could actually create something fairly meaningful myself. Right, and that's sort of what led me down the path of building this business on my own. So I currently am the founder and CEO of Tel Pastel. I have a very small team of part-time engineers that help me so that I can focus on go-to-market stuff and not just build all the time. But this still continues to be me. This new sample book creation flow that you're seeing, I built Friday, Saturday, and Sunday last week in prep for this Mother's Day campaign. So while this is finishing generating, why don't it will take about another kind of 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes from where it is right now. What questions do you have, right? I'm happy to kind of give you the, the sort of plain reality of what it's like as you get deeper into these tools.
Was the harder how did you use AI for your ideation? Like how was that process? Like thinking through um the idea, edge cases, like what it should be.
Yeah, great question. So I like the setup I use for things, just have AI everywhere. Like I use ChatGPT for some things, Vanessa. I use Claude for some things. I have Claude Code set up in VS Code because that's sort of what I use for coding. Sometimes I will use Gemini because Gemini is good at certain things. And I tend to like when I have a question about something or I have an idea about something, I just choose which one of the AI models I think will provide me the best answer, and I loaded a bunch of context. So for the idea, I'll give you an example. For the idea for this Mother's Day campaign, right, what I did was I went to Claude. I loaded a bunch of context into Claude about the company, and there was already a bunch in there about my project. And I just started having a conversation with Claude about me wanting to run a Mother's Day campaign. And I said, look, first, I just want to come up with ad angles. Here are a bunch of ideas. Ask me questions. Like, let's figure something out. Right? We came up with a bunch of ideas, and then we started working on this idea for a rapid sort of sample book to get people hooked to then go buy the full thing. And when
Mhm.
I got to that point, I actually shifted from Claude the web app to my Claude code because I wanted
Mhm.
Claude code to give me feedback on what was actually in my code base. So I went to Claude Code and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this whole Mother's Day idea thing. I'm really worried about the conversion funnel. I'm thinking of creating some like really rapid path that's just a sample because a full book is hyper flexible. Like what you all can see on the screen now, this just created automatically in the background." Right. So here we got like the image generation got the characters wrong. This one it got it right. Same there. Same there. So it drafted the entire story, generated the characters from the photos, and laid everything out in a 5-page book with like a beginning, middle, and end of a story. Our full experience is significantly more detailed. You can edit every character, you can edit every page, you can edit every like text and every image. It takes about a half an hour. This one took less than 5 minutes. So I was in Claude Code and said, just help me figure out what a rapid flow might look like. And we sort of iterated through a bunch of ideas, wrote out a design document that was effectively like a PRD for
Mhm.
this flow. And then we went through and executed it step by step. And with the right kind of with the right questions, or the right instructions, like the ones that Dan and Garrett have been working on, Claude Code will work through a process to help you build a real product, not a prototype. Right? So to your point, what is the test suite that I should run against this? What is the manual testing that I should do? What are the edge cases that I need to be careful of, right? What should I go look for to make sure that the right information is ending up in the database? Like all of those things are now as simple as either the knowledge in your head or like a Claude MD file that ends up in your Claude Code instance so that it knows what it's supposed to do when, or you can trigger a workflow for it to go evaluate your application. And that was a long answer to your question, but I hope it was helpful.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, this is it. You can literally do anything, and you don't have to be an engineer to do it. You either have to have some sense of how technology works or a desire to learn, frankly. Right? I think either one of those are okay. During a 2 week boot camp, you're not going to build this. Like I have been building this for the last 6 or 7 months. But in the first 2 weeks, you can certainly build a version of something really quickly. In my boot camp, I built in 2 weeks, I built a private equity analyst that evaluated companies that wanted to be acquired and did like discounted cash flow analyses and like a sort of merger rationale analysis. Right? And I did that in 2 weeks. It wasn't production ready. I wouldn't put it in front of customers, but it took input, did a bunch of stuff, then did a bunch more stuff, and then gave me an output. And it leveraged a bunch of different AI models to do it. I hope that was helpful.
Danny, I love seeing where you've taken this because I remember at the beginning of it, where it was literally just a little kernel of an idea. Um, but it's this is a great example, folks, of seeing somebody go build something and then learn a way of building and go, wait a minute, I can go apply this to another idea. I can go apply this to multiple other ideas. And that's essentially what he's done. And he's turned this into a full business. Um, I don't know if Garrett mentioned this, but we have other folks that have gone through this boot camp that have, based on what they did in the boot camp, they've quit their jobs. I'm not joking. They quit their jobs. And we have somebody who's gone out and gotten funding, landed around, right, to go take their business,
Yeah,
their
Matt.
idea from just this little personal idea to actually something they're going to do full time. Multiple people have done that. It's a pretty empowering boot camp in that way. There's more than just learning the tools. You might actually learn something about yourself in that process.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Dan. So the question came up earlier. I think Zach had to leave, but this should be relevant to everybody. So this morning at 8:33, I was like, I'm just gonna go through a workflow that somebody might go through for the first time, just thinking about what they want to build. And so I'm a strategy and ops consultant with many clients, each with their own Google domain and email alias and Slack domain, and some use WhatsApp even to message me. And so it's just the amount of things I have to track. They use Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Hangouts. I can't keep up with all the different note takers and domains, and so I've been missing things. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna see what I could if I could come up with an idea that's like an AI chief of staff that takes all the transcripts from all the calls, is integrated into my emails and my Slack, and can target specific content and then come up with a daily report digest that I get at 6 in the morning with my coffee that helps me structure and schedule my day and tells me what's the most important thing and what's, a thing that should happen, but less important. And so what I have Claude 100 Mac, like the $100 per month Max subscription, and so that gives me access to Opus and can automatically switch between Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku, the three different tiered models. And so Opus is the most powerful model that they offer. It's incredible. So it will actually ask me questions or ask you questions about your idea to clarify based on whatever context that you articulated to help you get to a PRD. So that was the outcome I told it is I'm going to build this and vibe code it. I want a PRD to help communicate to the UI builder that we have at Ember help me figure out the right PRD and, ask me any clarifying questions. So it starts to then do that. Um, I won't go through the whole thing, but so it asks me these questions, I answer them, and then it asks me some more questions, I answer them. So what Dan said is he'll meet with each of you to go through this, but this is something you can do to get started on an idea if you don't have one, is you're just brainstorming and collaborating at this point. You say, I have this problem, I think of something here to do for this course, and this is also something that's personally relevant to me that I want to try to figure out and make it easier in my life. What are some options we have here? And if you collaborate with AI, especially Opus, you can get something pretty awesome pretty quick. I was doing this for my own project yesterday, and we redesigned the entire thing because I started to collaborate and rethink the whole thing, and got a couple moments of incredible clarity by just collaborating and opening my mind up a little bit. So I moved pretty quick through this. I would have done a lot more tinkering, and so what it'll do is it'll create a PRD. So then what I did, just to show you all, is copy it. This is our UI builder. This is ember.new/studio. This is what we'll take you through and use. You just paste it in here and click initialize. So while it does this, um, it's also going to ask me a few questions, clarifying questions. Like we talked about, you're trying to communicate an intention through language, and AI is trying to interpret what you're communicating, and it's thinking about all the things that you didn't articulate. So what's the tech stack? How is this variable gonna interact with this variable? And so it's thinking through all of these things that a build would require, and it wants to make sure that it's translating correctly and is going to build the thing that you actually want, even if you haven't considered a few things in the initial PRD prompt. So it asks me a few questions. And I'd answer this, answer the next question. And then this is the exact PRD. I just am skipping steps to avoid the loading for 3 to 5 minutes. And it built this. So it took about 5 minutes. And so this is where the journey begins. On the left, this is where we vibe code and communicate changes we want. This is where you can attach screenshots or files to help with context and clarity. This is switching between some models you can use for it. And then let me show you. So part of my PRDs, I want it by client, so I could focus on one client at a time, but also by overall priority. So across clients, like what do I really need to focus on today? Here are my integrations, Google, Slack, Fathom, etc. Now, you'll see this is just dummy data, right? This is just a front-end prototype. So if I wanted to change things, I could just do it here. Sometimes there'll be bugs. You click these buttons and it'll automatically fix the bugs and the errors. And so the beginning of the boot camp, well, I guess early on in the boot camp, once you've got your PRD built and you're ready to paste it and go through this, you'll start to vibe code your front end prototype. That's not functional, but is the front end layout that you want to then connect a backend to. And then we'll move into a different tool and start using the operating system we've talked about and building a backend and front end together to get to the product that you're intending to build. So let's say, okay, with Globex, urgent stale. So I'm going to show you now. Let's say we get through this. You can connect to GitHub, start with building the backend, um, and then
And don't worry if you don't know what GitHub is. And don't worry if you don't
yeah,
understand what a
yeah.
backend is. Any of these technical terms, you'll learn all that pretty quickly.
So this was the initial project I built that I'm completely redoing, but I wanted to show this as an example of what Claude Code looks like in VS Code, which is a tool we're using for the backend part. So first, a fun one. Does anyone want to take a crack at this riddle? So what I built here is I wanted to there's vibe coding, and then there's AI integrations, which require an architecture where you're defining the persona, the behavior, the rules, the constraints of what you want the LLM to do. So an LLM has its own training where it's going to try to tell you how awesome you are and give you this long explanation of what it is you're asking about. And so I don't want that when I integrate with an LLM. I want it to perform a specific task in a certain way and then present the output in a very specific way to the end user. And so I have to create a behavioral architecture system that fits around the LLM and does the thing I want. And so I did a few of these to test how to make that work well. And one's a riddle generator and one's a lateral thinking puzzle generator. And so I wanted to say, create every day on a countdown a new riddle that everyone in the world could try and attempt. And you have up to whatever attempts you want. And so there's some level of tracking of how long it took you to get it. You can ask yes or no questions for clues. How many clues did you get? So all of that is a part of the architecture, but then the riddle generator is its own architecture. So things like it must be novel. It can't be one that's like popular or common. No repeated themes. So I had to define and constrain all of these things to make it feel like a good riddle that people would actually be curious about and somewhat challenging to figure out. Um, any guesses? This one took me like 10 minutes. Okay, think about a device you use when you want to cut something.
Is this a razor? Razor blade?
So it's scissors.
Uh,
And so it's supposed to, I thought I had vibe coded months ago when I did this that if I get it right, there's supposed to be an alert, like you got it, and then confetti's supposed to fall. So I could vibe code here and say, I take a screenshot, I go into Claude Code. This is where I communicate in vibe code. Say, hey, I thought we built a um, feature that informs the user they um, correctly guessed the daily riddle and confetti. And then I upload the screenshot and we start from there. So we're going to show you an operating system that is more disciplined than this. I'm showing you the very surface level vibe code, just talk and see what happens and go. Our model will show a different rhythm and routine that you'll go through to start each session with that ensures that it's pulling from the relevant code base and files that it only needs to in order to perform this task. Instead of it having to kind of search and figure out everywhere and waste tokens doing that, the system will teach you will be much more disciplined than this one, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like.
what kind of questions do folks have at this point?
I'm sorry, this is the point where the sun attacks me from my window that I can't block, so I start to glow a little bit.
I guess it's kind of in line with some of these other questions. I guess you like when would be great to have a PRD to make sure that, we can stay on track for a 4-week completion? That in the first week, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. The way to think about it, Michelle, is basically the way it's divided up. You got 4 weeks, right? We use the first week to essentially help you refine the idea and think through the elements of the idea, scope it appropriately, size it, think through the MVP feature that you want to go build. We do most of that work in the first week. Some of it might expand into the second week, but we're using the second week really working on front end prototyping. And because that's the look and the feel of the way you're going to interact with the system. And then we start working in the third week with integration where you're wiring in, your database, you're wiring in any other, let's say APIs, which are data sources that you might need to be pulling in. We start wiring in and coding essentially. And then the
Mhm.
last week, and this whole time you're refining, right? You've kind of got you're refining the whole time. And then that very last week, you're working on further refinement of both the front end, which is your user and experience, and maybe your database structure, maybe some additional features, and then we get you to deployment where you have it live for other people to interact with, unless you just want it live for yourself. Um, and that's essentially how it works. So the PRD, we're trying to get to a pretty good um, starting point within the first week. And what we found is that happens pretty consistently for everyone. Now you might, as you're going through this, go, "Oh, I forgot something." Maybe you're 2 weeks in, you're like, "Oh my heavens, would be so cool to have this other widget capability." Not a problem. We can try and scope that in and see if there's enough time to go build, an interface for it, et cetera, et cetera. Most students find that they can build in this 4 weeks with just if you're working full time, just kind of average, right? If you can spend
Mhm.
like, let's say the hour Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, if you could spend half an hour in the evenings, if you can spend some time on the weekends, you can probably build yourself a good 5, 6, 7 features over the course of a month. Depends on how much time you have to put into it. Depends on how much effort you put into it. It's your results may vary, but that's the way to think about it.
And so the MVP, I guess, is 5 to 7 simple, like try to keep it to a handful of features. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I would say that the way to think about it is that's part of what we're going to sit down and define. What would be a minimum viable product,
Okay.
right? Which could be an onboarding, it could be a dashboard, it could be some transformation like you see here with a riddle generator. Um, it could be, or like what Danny just showed you, how he was able to take input, transform it, you know. But effectively, everybody who's gone through this comes out with more than they anticipated they could build in a month.
Okay. Sorry, if I could ask one more question, and this one
Yeah.
for Danny. Dan, I mean, uh, it sounds like you've been able to do a lot of other idea, or come develop several other ideas after the camp. How
Yeah.
much support did you feel like? I mean, were you ready to go and just start deploying stuff into production after this camp, or did you require more support? And
I certainly needed some support along the way here and there. Like now
Mhm.
it's second nature,
That's
but
great.
the, I think you get, what is it now, 5 hours of one-on-one support from
Mhm.
the team during the boot camp. If you don't use them during the boot camp, they don't take them away from you. You can use them
Oh, great.
afterwards.
Okay.
And you can use them for whatever you want. Like I chose effectively to not use. I think I used like a half an hour of mine during the boot camp, and then actually needed more help with the things like deployment to learn how to do that stuff. But I sort of powered my
Yeah.
way through most of the building during the boot camp. So, this is all a learning experience, Michelle. So
Right.
you can use those support hours where you need the help and not where you don't need the help. And the I think for those that want to sort of learn how to build and really understand what agentic engineering is reality, like this is a fantastic way to do it. You can sort of choose the pain of self-discovery that you want to go through
Yeah.
uh, throughout the process. Like Dan and Garrett mentioned, some people have gone through the boot camp and now run businesses based on the things that they started creating and the things that they learned. Like my now Tel Pastel has like its own complex infrastructure and everything. Like I'm not running this on the stuff that SnapDev or that Ember
Mhm.
gives you in the SnapCamp. So that is a transition that like I made when I decided that this was going to become a real business. But
Got it.
you have everything that you need to be able to
Yeah,
build a true working product, both
that's great
from
to hear.
skills and infrastructure and support.
Yeah.
I think that is what philosophically and sort of where we're heading. We mentioned the not even getting to first base yet, of where this is heading is there's two sides to this, and maybe three, maybe 10 actually, but I'll talk about two or three. There's organizations are going to be moving in towards integrating with AI more, with agents more, with the processes, and they're going to need people who have those skills in order to be able to help them make that transition. And so what we're trying to do here is, and also out there is a lot of the ability of technical people and engineers to very quickly adapt and adjust because they're already engineers. And so they just integrate with these vibe coding workflows that we're going to teach you. But what we want to try to do is help organizations make that transition and help prepare people to make that transition too. And so we've tailored this to support people's development and building skills, whether they want to bring it to their organization, whether they want to be entrepreneurs and build their own business, or just want to learn this stuff in order to make their lives of their family and friends easier by building a tool or feature set that applies directly to them, and then see if they want to expand it from there. And so we have tailored this boot camp for the non-technical to help them keep up and bridge that gap and help transition beyond first base.
Yep. Are there any other questions, folks? Just anything about the boot camp, anything about the timing? We'd love to have you all join us. It's a hoot, I'll tell you that.
It's fun.
It's fun. We end up with folks coming from all sorts of different backgrounds. You build a really cool community of folks when you join the boot camp. Not only the present boot camp members that are in there with you, but also past boot camp members. There's a lot of knowledge that gets shared in that space. So there's a pretty strong community aspect to this too that we don't talk about a lot. But I hope folks decide to join and on this journey, and we'd love to help you go through a learning process and build something cool. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
And if
you.
you have any follow-up questions at all, want to chat some more, just reach out to me. My email should be on the invite. If not, I'll send a blast out to everybody, excuse me, through the Luma page.
Yeah.
So you have my contact info if you want to chat more.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Excellent.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.